New study warns the Colorado River is on the edge of another major crisis.
The Colorado River provides water for about 40 million people across the West, but Schmidt's team found that current demand may be outpacing supply.
In 1922, representatives from 7 U.S. states signed an agreement they believed would secure the future of the American Southwest. The document was called the Colorado River Compact. At the time, it was celebrated as a masterpiece of cooperation, a triumph of engineering, law, and optimism. It divided the waters of the Colorado River among states whose cities, farms, and economies depended on it for survival. On paper, it was precise. Every acre-foot of water was allocated. Every state's future appeared guaranteed. But there was a fatal flaw hidden beneath the ink. The river they divided was not real, at least not in the way they believed. In fact, it may never have existed at all. Chapter 1. A river that never existed. The compact allocated 15 million acre-feet of water each year between the upper basin states, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, and New Mexico, and the lower basin states, California, Arizona, and Nevada. Each basin received 7.5 million acre-feet annually. Later, a 1944 treaty promised Mexico an additional 1.5 million acre-feet. Every drop was spoken for. Yet today, the Colorado River produces only about 12 to 13 million acre-feet in an average year. The math is merciless. The system promised more water than the river can physically provide, not occasionally, not during droughts, but permanently. The legal foundation supporting 40 million people and a multi-trillion-dollar economy is built on water that does not exist. This is not a temporary crisis waiting to be solved by a few wet years. It is the moment when an entire region confronts the reality that its civilization was built on a century-old accounting error. Chapter 2. The data that misled a nation. To understand how this happened, we have to go back to what negotiators saw in 1922. When delegates gathered to divide the river, they relied on the best data available at the time: stream gauge measurements dating back to the late 1800s and scientific analysis from the U.S. Geological Survey. Based on records from 1905 to 1922, experts concluded that the Colorado River carried an average of roughly 16.4 million acre-feet of water each year. That number seemed reliable. Divide it evenly, leave a buffer, and store surplus water behind dams to manage dry years. The logic was sound. What the negotiators could not know was that the data itself was deeply misleading. Decades later, scientists uncovered the truth using an unexpected source: trees. Chapter 3. What the trees remembered. Researchers at the University of Arizona's Laboratory of Tree Ring Research analyzed ancient tree cores across the Colorado River basin. Tree rings preserve a natural record of water availability. Wide rings during wet years, narrow rings during droughts. By studying trees hundreds of years old, scientists reconstructed river flows long before modern instruments existed. What they found was staggering. The early 20th century, the exact period used to calculate the compact, was one of the wettest stretches in at least 1,200 years. The negotiators had not measured the river's normal behavior. They had measured an extreme anomaly. Over the past 500 years, the Colorado River's true long-term average flow was closer to 13.5 to 14.5 million acre-feet per year. The compact was based on water levels far above that reality, and that was before climate change further reduced flows. Chapter 4. Structural deficit. By the early 2000s, as reservoirs declined and drought tightened its grip, scientists began using a new phrase: structural deficit. This wasn't a short-term shortage. It was a permanent imbalance between promises made and water available. Over the last 2 decades, the river has averaged about 12.5 million acre-feet annually. Meanwhile, legal commitments still total more than 16.5 million acre-feet when Mexico's share is included. The gap has no legal solution built into the compact. By late 2024, combined storage in Lake Mead and Lake Powell had dropped to roughly 28% of capacity. Both reservoirs are approaching levels where they can no longer perform their basic functions: power generation, water delivery, and system stability. Every model, every data set, every projection points in the same direction. The system is collapsing under the weight of impossible promises. Chapter 5. When law meets physics. Hydrologists, legal scholars, and climate scientists all reached the same conclusion through different methods. Sediment cores, historical archives, paleoclimate records all confirmed that the early 1900s were unusually wet. The compact assumed abundance. abundance and never planned for scarcity. Climate change has only accelerated the problem. The Colorado River Basin has warmed by roughly 2.5 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit since the early 20th century. Warmer temperatures increase evaporation from soil, reservoirs, and plants. Even when snowfall remains steady, less water reaches the river. Studies estimate that about 20% of the river's current decline is due solely to warming temperatures. The same snowpack now produces less runoff than it did decades ago. The river is shrinking, not only because less snow falls, but because more water disappears before it ever flows downstream. And the compact contains no mechanism to deal with this reality. It was designed to divide water, not ration it. It assumes the river will always provide enough to meet legal obligations. When it doesn't, the document offers no answers. Chapter 6. Who goes without the human consequences are immediate. Roughly 70 to 80% of the Colorado River's water is used for agriculture. The Imperial Valley in California, one of the most productive farming regions in the country, depends almost entirely on Colorado River water. Vegetables, cattle feed, and winter crops that supply the nation all grow in desert soil made fertile by irrigation. The Imperial Irrigation District alone uses more water than the entire state of Nevada. As shortages deepen, farmers face permanent land retirement, not temporary cuts, but the end of farming on land cultivated for generations. Cities face their own reckoning. Phoenix, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, San Diego, and Tucson were built on guaranteed river allocations. Millions of people already live there. Their homes, jobs, and infrastructure cannot simply be undone. When legal rights to water collide with the physical absence of water, someone must lose. Tribal nations hold some of the most senior water rights in the basin, yet many never received the infrastructure needed to access their water. 30 tribes collectively hold rights to an estimated 2.8 million acre-feet, much of it unquantified and undelivered. As scarcity intensifies, those rights become more powerful and more contested. Mexico, guaranteed 1.5 million acre-feet under international treaty, has watched the Colorado River Delta collapse into a dry, saline wasteland. The river that once reached the Sea of Cortez now often fails to cross the border at all. Economically, the stakes are enormous. The Colorado River supports roughly $1.4 trillion in annual economic activity. Agriculture, real estate, energy production, and tourism all depend on water that increasingly isn't there. Attempts to manage the crisis have been unprecedented in scale. Shortage guidelines, drought contingency plans, federal conservation payments, and billions of dollars in emergency funding have slowed the decline. In wet years, reservoirs recover slightly. Headlines declare progress. But cooperation reveals deeper fractures. Upper basin states question why they should conserve water they have not yet fully used to support growth elsewhere. Lower basin states argue senior rights must be honored. California insists on its legal priority. Arizona questions fairness. Nevada says it has already cut to the bone. The compact offers no clear way to resolve these conflicts. Climate projections make the challenge even more severe. Every degree Celsius of warming reduces river flow by roughly 9%. With additional warming expected by mid-century, flows could drop another 10 to 30%. The language has changed. Officials no longer talk about drought. They talk about permanent reallocation. The Colorado River Compact remains one of the most important agreements in American water law. For a century, it shaped the Southwest. But the river it describes was a statistical illusion. 40 million people still depend on its promises. The math no longer works. Promised water minus real water equals crisis. The only question left is who pays the price, and whether the legal system can adapt before reality forces collapse. Scarcity is no longer the exception. It is the rule. And the bill for a century-old mistake has finally come due. If you find this breakdown valuable, consider liking the video and subscribing for more in-depth stories like this.